The twin suns of Eloria burned bright above the sky, their golden light spreading across the wide plains where the armies of two races trained side by side. Humans and Elorians had not always been allies. Only a generation ago, their battles had shaken mountains and filled rivers with sorrow. But now, after years of uneasy peace, warriors from both worlds stood together, sharpening their skills against a common enemy that grew beyond the stars. Among the human soldiers, one figure stood apart. His name was Ethan. His armor was worn but carefully kept, and his sword carried the marks of countless battles. He did not speak much, yet his eyes seemed to watch everything around him. Many aliens respected his strength, but they also whispered about his silence. Who was he really? And why did he seem to know the Elorian ways as if they were his own? Princess Elira often wondered the same thing. As the only daughter of the High Queen, she was both a leader and a symbol for her people. She carried herself with pride, her silver hair shining like the stars, her voice steady and commanding. But inside she was curious. Curiosity was something she never showed in public. Yet Ethan stirred questions she could not ignore. The first time she saw him, he was training with 3 alien warriors at once. His movements were sharp but graceful, his timing perfect. When one opponent tried to catch him from behind, Ethan shifted like water flowing around a stone and countered with precision. There was no arrogance in his style, only focus and duty. Elira had watched many humans fight, but Ethan was different. He fought not just with strength, but with an understanding of Elorian combat that was unusual for an outsider. When her people struck in patterns that only they were taught as children, he anticipated each move as if he had grown up among them. Later that day, she walked to the edge of the training field, her guards following close behind. Ethan bowed his head politely but did not speak first. Elira studied him with sharp eyes. "You fight as if you know our people well," she said. Ethan simply replied, "I have studied. It is important to understand one's allies." She raised an eyebrow at the careful choice of words. Many humans spoke proudly of their skills, eager to show they were equal to the Elorians. Ethan spoke with respect, but there was something more beneath his answer. She felt as though he was hiding something. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan's presence near the royal guard became common. Whenever Elira traveled to inspect the soldiers or visit the camps, he was always close. Not because he forced his way near her, but because he always seemed to be placed where danger could reach her most easily. And whenever trouble came, Ethan was there first. One afternoon, the princess rode out beyond the walls of the city with her escort. The sky was quiet, the fields golden with tall grass. She wanted a moment away from the endless council meetings and the constant pressure of leadership. But peace never lasted long on Eloria. From the hills ahead, a group of raiders rushed forward. They were mercenaries from the outer moons, hungry for chaos and wealth. The guards moved to protect the princess, but the raiders struck fast. Horses screamed, blades clashed, and arrows filled the air. Elira drew her staff, ready to defend herself, but one of the raiders slipped through the chaos, rushing toward her with a blade raised high. Before she could act, Ethan was there. He moved like a shadow cutting through light, his sword flashing in the sun. With one strike, he disarmed the attacker. With another, he sent the raider tumbling to the ground. His focus never wavered. He did not look at her until the enemy was gone. "Are you hurt, princess?" he asked, his voice calm even though the battle still raged. "No," she answered quickly, surprised by how steady his voice remained. Together they stood as the guards regrouped and pushed the raiders back. By the time the dust cleared, Elira's heart was beating faster than she wanted to admit. Ethan had not only saved her, but had predicted the attack before it even reached her side. He fought as if his purpose was not just to protect an ally, but to protect her personally. That night in the palace halls, she thought about what had happened. Why did Ethan seem so determined when it came to her safety? Why did he fight with such certainty? As if he knew her life was more important to him than his own. The next morning, Elira sought him again. She found him sharpening his blade under the pale light of dawn. He looked up as she approached, waiting for her words. "You always appear where danger touches me," she said. "Why?" Ethan paused before answering. "It is my duty, princess. A warrior protects the crown." Elira studied him. His tone was steady, but she felt he was holding something back. "Many warriors protect the crown," she replied, "but you protect me as if it is more than duty." For the first time, Ethan's calm mask shifted. It was only for a heartbeat, but she saw it. A flicker of something deeper. He stood, saluted with respect, and said only, "I live to serve." With that, he walked away, leaving her with more questions than answers. Days later, during another round of training, Alira sat quietly in the stands while Ethan instructed younger soldiers. She listened as he explained not only how to strike, but why certain moves mattered in Aelorian philosophy. Her people believed combat was not only about strength, but about harmony with the world. Humans rarely understood that. Yet Ethan taught it with the voice of someone who had lived it. Alira's heart tightened. She was certain now. He was not simply a human warrior who had studied her people. He knew too much. He fought as if he belonged, spoke as if he had shared their lives, and guarded her as if their fates were tied. When the session ended, Ethan noticed her watching. Their eyes met across the training field. For the first time, Alira felt unsettled, not because of fear, but because she sensed a truth hidden behind his silence, a truth waiting to rise. That night, as the palace lights burned and the stars stretched endless above, Princess Alira whispered to herself, "Who are you really, Ethan?" Her question drifted into the silence, unanswered, but her heart already knew the journey ahead would uncover secrets that would change everything she believed about him and about herself. The following days on Aeloria carried the weight of quiet tension. Princess Alira found herself watching Ethan more closely, her thoughts returning again and again to the questions she could not shake. Who was this man truly, and why did he act as though her safety was more than just his duty? The palace courtyard filled with the sound of steel and shouting as soldiers trained at dawn. Ethan moved among them like a shadow, correcting stances, showing techniques, and pushing each fighter beyond their limits. The warriors respected him, not only for his skill but for the calm way he carried himself. His voice was firm but never cruel. His hands adjusted grips and blades with care, like a teacher guiding students rather than a commander forcing obedience. Alira stood at the balcony watching. She noticed details others missed. When a young alien recruit stumbled, Ethan caught him with ease and reminded him gently of his footing. When another swung too high, he lowered the blade with precision, repeating the motion until the soldier understood. There was discipline in his actions, but also patience. It was strange to see such balance in a human warrior, for most humans valued speed and power above all. Ethan seemed to value understanding. Later that morning, Alira descended from the balcony, determined to test him with questions. She dismissed her guard so she could speak freely. Ethan straightened when she approached, bowing slightly in respect. "Your soldiers grow stronger under your training," she said. "They work hard," Ethan replied. "Discipline builds strength that never fades." She studied his face, the sharp lines marked by years of battle, yet softened by a calmness she rarely saw in soldiers. "Tell me, Ethan, where did you learn so much about my people's ways?" "The forms you teach are not taught to outsiders." Ethan's eyes flickered with something unspoken. "I have traveled far. I have studied where I could." "Studied is not enough," she said, her voice firm. "You move as if you lived among us. You speak our philosophies as if they are carved into your soul." "Who taught you?" For a moment, silence stretched between them. Alira thought he might finally open himself to her, but then Ethan gave the same guarded smile she had come to know. "It is better, Princess, if I speak less of my past," he said. "The present is what matters. The enemy grows stronger. Our duty is to prepare." His refusal made her heart stir with both frustration and curiosity. She turned away before he could see her anger, but inside she vowed to uncover the truth. That evening, during a council meeting, her thoughts drifted again. The council discussed threats from the outer moons, reports of raiders and rumors of rebellion in distant provinces. But Alira's mind was fixed on Ethan. When one elder spoke of the importance of trust between humans and Aelorians, she almost laughed to herself. How could trust be whole when a man who stood so close to her heart carried secrets like heavy chains? After the meeting, she slipped into the palace archives. Few dared to enter alone, for the archives were endless halls of stone and crystal, filled with records that stretched back centuries. Alira lit a lantern and walked deeper, following a memory from her childhood. Somewhere within these walls were records of human treaties. If Ethan carried secrets, perhaps they lay hidden in old agreements between the two races. Hours passed as she searched through shelves of scrolls and carved tablets. At last she found something unusual. A sealed record marked with the royal crest older than her own reign. The writing described a sacred pact, a marriage oath made between the royal family and a human warrior long ago. The details were unclear, parts of the record erased or hidden by time, yet the meaning was clear. The pact had tied a human and a princess together in union to strengthen peace. Her heart raced. Could it be Ethan? The thought made her breath catch. She wanted to deny it, but her instincts told her otherwise. The next day, she kept her discovery hidden, but her eyes followed Ethan with sharper focus. During training, she saw how he spoke to her people with familiarity. During meals, she noticed how he moved in the palace as if it were not foreign to him. Each detail built upon her suspicion. That afternoon, the soldiers were ordered to march beyond the river valley to test their readiness. Elira went with them, dressed in light armor. Ethan led the human side, his voice steady as he guided them across rough terrain. The march was long, and the air carried the heavy smell of approaching rain. When they reached the valley, a group of enemy scouts attacked, faster than expected. The soldiers formed lines, clashing with the enemy in bursts of steel and fire. Elira fought with her staff, striking down one attacker, but she saw Ethan again near her side, defending her with absolute focus. In the chaos, one of the enemy leaders shouted words in the old tongue. Elira froze as she heard them. "Ethan, husband of the crown." Her eyes widened. The voice cut through the battle like thunder. She turned to Ethan, but he did not answer. He only fought harder, his blade moving with urgency. The enemy leader fell beneath his strike, silenced forever. When the fighting ended, Elira stood with her soldiers, her mind spinning. She looked at Ethan, who now cleaned his blade as though nothing unusual had been spoken. But the words burned in her memory, husband of the crown. That night, Elira could not sleep. She walked the halls of the palace, her thoughts storming like the rain outside. At last, she decided she could not remain silent. She would confront him. She found him alone in the courtyard, seated under the rain, sharpening his sword by the glow of a lantern. His armor glistened with water, his expression unreadable. "Ethan," she said firmly. He looked up, his eyes meeting hers. "I heard the enemy call you something today," she continued. "They called you husband of the crown. Explain this, now." For the first time, Ethan's calm broke. His hand froze on the blade. His jaw tightened. Silence stretched between them. At last he said, "Princess, the past holds truths that were hidden for your sake. I swore to protect you, not to burden you with them." Her voice sharpened. "You will not protect me with silence. You will speak." Ethan lowered his gaze. "It is not the time. One day you will know." His refusal cut her deeply. Anger flared in her chest, yet beneath it was something more painful. Fear. Fear that the truth, when it came, would change everything she thought she knew about him. And about herself. She left him in the rain, her heart heavy, her mind burning with questions. The secrets beneath his armor were no longer whispers. They were rising like a storm, and Elira knew she would not rest until she uncovered them all. The storm had passed, but in Princess Elira's heart the clouds still gathered. The enemy's words repeated in her mind again and again. "Husband of the crown." The phrase struck her like a blade sharper than steel. She needed the truth, and she would find it even if Ethan tried to hide it behind his silence. The next morning, the palace hummed with activity. Couriers delivered messages from distant provinces. Generals spoke of patrol routes, and servants hurried through the halls with trays of food and scrolls. But Elira moved with a different purpose. She returned to the archives, the silent halls of stone and crystal, where knowledge lay buried in dust. She held her lantern high as she searched, guided by memory and instinct. Hours passed until she found what she sought. The sealed record she had discovered before now seemed heavier in her hands. She unrolled the scroll again, reading each line with greater care. The words described an agreement formed years ago when war between humans and Aelorians threatened to destroy both sides. To prevent endless bloodshed, the ruling council had approved a sacred union between the crown of Aeloria and a chosen human warrior. The pact was meant to bind their fates together. Her hands trembled as she read further. The name of the warrior was written, though faint and half-broken by age. Ethan. Elira's breath caught. Her suspicion was no longer a shadow. The truth was before her eyes. Ethan was not simply her guardian. He was her husband by oath, joined to her through an agreement sealed long ago. Yet confusion clouded her heart. She had been a child at the time, too young to remember such a pact. Had her mother hidden it from her to protect her from political struggle? Had the council erased it to prevent scandal? Questions pressed down on her like the weight of the palace walls. Illyra carried the scroll to her private chamber. There she sat for hours, staring at the words, wondering what they meant for her life. If the vow was true, then Ethan had been by her side not only as a warrior but as something far more personal. The thought filled her with both fear and awe. That evening she summoned Ethan to the chamber. He entered quietly, his step steady, his expression calm. When he saw the scroll in her hands, his eyes darkened with something close to sorrow. "You knew," she said, her voice firm though her heart pounded. Ethan did not answer at once. He lowered his head as if bracing himself for a blow. "Yes," he said at last. "I knew," her voice sharpened. "Why did you never tell me? Why did you keep this secret when it was my right to know?" Ethan looked at her then, his eyes steady and full of weight. "Because the truth would have placed a target on your back. There were those who hated the union between our races. If they had known you were bound to me, they would have used it to harm you, or to destroy peace before it had a chance to grow." Illyra felt anger rise in her chest. "So you decided for me? You thought silence was better than trust?" "I decided to protect you," Ethan replied quietly, "even if it meant you would never look at me as more than a soldier. I swore to keep you safe no matter the cost." His words struck her hard in two directions. Part of her wanted to rage against him for hiding something so important, yet another part of her felt shaken by his devotion, by the sacrifice of carrying such a secret alone. She turned away, her hands trembling as she set the scroll down. "All this time you were not only my protector, you were my husband." Ethan's voice was calm, but there was pain in it. "By oath, yes. But I never wished to bind you with chains you did not choose. That is why I stayed silent. You deserved freedom, not a duty forced upon you by old words." Illyra closed her eyes. She remembered all the times he had shielded her, all the moments he had fought as if her life mattered more than his own. The truth explained everything, yet it also left her with a wound she did not know how to heal. For days she avoided him. She walked the palace halls with her head high, fulfilling her duties as princess, but her thoughts were never at rest. Every time she saw Ethan on the training grounds or in council meetings, she felt the bond between them like a thread pulling at her heart. One night, she sat with her mother, the High Queen, in the royal garden. The air smelled of flowering vines and the stars shimmered above. Illyra's voice was heavy when she spoke. "Mother, why did you never tell me?" The queen's eyes softened. "Because the world was not ready for such truth. The council feared chaos. The people were not ready to see their princess tied to a human. It was easier to erase the memory, to let the vow sleep in silence. Was that fair to me?" Illyra asked bitterly. Her mother sighed. "No, but it was meant to protect you. Perhaps it was a mistake." Yet Ethan carried the burden without complaint. That alone should tell you what kind of man he is. The words sank into Illyra's heart. She realized then that Ethan had lived for years with the weight of an oath he could not speak, guarding her while denying himself the truth. The next day, fate forced them together again. A messenger arrived with urgent news. A large force of enemy rebels was marching toward the outer villages. The council demanded immediate defense. Ethan was chosen to lead the human soldiers, while Illyra was ordered to oversee the Elorian side. When they met before the march, silence hung between them. At last Illyra spoke. "We go to war together, husband of the crown." Ethan looked at her, surprise flickering in his eyes. "Do not use that title here. It will bring you danger." "Danger follows me anyway," she said firmly. "If this vow is real, then I will not hide from it. You may fear the truth, Ethan, but I will not." His eyes softened, though his voice remained steady. "Then let us fight as one, princess. Whatever comes, I will not let harm touch you." They marched side by side, their soldiers moving like waves of steel and light. When the enemy struck, the valley roared with battle. Arrows flew, blades clashed, and shouts filled the air. Ethan fought at her side with unmatched focus. He moved with the precision of a man who had trained his entire life for this moment. Illyra matched him, her staff striking down enemy after enemy. Together they formed a shield no enemy could break. When the battle ended, their armies stood victorious, though the ground was littered with fallen foes. Illyra stood breathing heavily, her eyes fixed on Ethan. He turned to her, his armor marked by battle, his gaze steady. For the first time, she spoke without anger. Perhaps the vow was not only chains. Perhaps it was also strength. Ethan bowed his head. It was always meant to be strength, Princess. For you, for peace, for us. Her heart trembled at his words. She knew then that the truth of their bond was no longer something she could run from. The forgotten vows had risen again, and they would shape the future in ways she could not yet see. The victory in the valley brought temporary relief, but Aloria was far from safe. Rumors spread quickly through the land. Whispers of the forgotten vow began to stir among both humans and Alorians. Soldiers who had fought beside Ethan and Alira saw the way they moved together, their strikes flowing as if guided by one spirit. To some it was inspiring. To others it was dangerous. The council gathered soon after the battle. The chamber was filled with sharp voices and tense faces. Elders of the Alorian court spoke first, their silver robes glowing in the lantern light. This union, one said, if it is revealed, will divide our people. Many still see humans as intruders. They will not accept a human as the husband of the crown. Another added, but the strength shown on the battlefield cannot be denied. Together, they defeated a force twice their size. Perhaps there is power in this bond. The arguments grew heated. Some wanted Ethan cast out. Others wanted him raised higher. Through it all, Alira sat in silence, her eyes steady, her thoughts racing. She knew the truth of the vow could no longer stay hidden. The storm of politics was rising, and she was at its center. Ethan stood apart at the edge of the chamber, his expression unreadable. He did not speak, for he had no right to challenge the elders. Yet his silence was heavy, like a shield he carried against every word. At last, the High Queen spoke. Her voice silenced the room. Enough. The enemy grows stronger every day. We cannot waste time fighting each other. The question of the vow will be answered in time. For now we must defend our people. The council ended, but unease lingered. Alira left the chamber with her heart burning. She found Ethan waiting in the hall, his sword resting at his side. They see you as a threat, she said quietly. Ethan nodded. I expected as much. They will force me to choose, Alira admitted. To stand with you or against you. And if I choose wrongly, peace may shatter. His eyes softened. Princess, I never wished for you to bear this weight. My oath was to protect you, not to chain you to me. If you deny me, I will not hold it against you. Her heart tightened at his words. He was ready to sacrifice even the bond that tied them, just to shield her from conflict. The thought filled her with both sorrow and admiration. Days later, scouts returned with grim news. A vast enemy host was gathering beyond the mountains, larger than anything they had faced before. Their leader was a warlord named Kareth, known for his cunning and cruelty. He had learned of the vow and now sought to use it as a weapon. If the princess is bound to a human, his message declared, then she has betrayed her blood. We will not follow a crown tainted by outsiders. The insult spread across the provinces, fueling unrest. Villages loyal to the old traditions began to question their allegiance. The fragile alliance trembled like glass. The army was assembled to march once more. Alira and Ethan stood at the front lines together, their banners flying high. Soldiers whispered as they passed, some with respect, others with doubt. The air was thick with tension, but also with determination. On the march, Alira rode beside Ethan. She studied his calm face, the way he spoke with the soldiers, giving them courage without arrogance. You never show fear, she said softly. He glanced at her, a faint smile touching his lips. Fear is natural. But if I let it rule me, others would lose heart. I carry my fear quietly, as every warrior must. Her chest warmed at his words. She realized again why he had earned such loyalty, not by power alone, but by the way he bore his burdens silently for the sake of others. When they reached the mountain pass, the enemy was waiting. Thousands of warriors stretched across the valley, their armor glinting in the sun. At their center stood Kareth, his massive form towering above his soldiers, his voice carrying across the field. Princess of Aloria, he called, stand aside. Cast away the human who has poisoned your crown, and we may spare your people. Keep him, and we will burn your world. The soldiers of Aloria looked to their princess, waiting for her answer. The moment was heavy with choice. Alira straightened in her saddle, her silver hair shining like a banner of its own. Her voice rang clear across the field. This warrior you insult is not poison. He is the strength that has carried us through every battle. I will not cast him aside. If you seek to burn my world, then know this. You will face both of us together. The army roared with mixed cries, some cheering, some gasping in shock. But her words had been spoken and they could not be taken back. The battle began with thunder. Arrows darkened the sky, blades clashed, and the valley shook with war cries. Ethan fought like a storm, his sword moving with precision and power. He cut through enemies with skill born of endless battles, his every strike protecting those around him. Elira fought beside him, her staff spinning like a silver flame. Together they stood as the heart of their army, their bond turning the tide again and again. Soldiers rallied to them, inspired by their unity. But Kareth was cunning. He sent his strongest warriors to surround them, hoping to break their strength. The circle of enemies tightened, blades flashing from all sides. Ethan moved without hesitation, his body a wall of steel. "Stay close to me," he said. "I will not hide behind you," Elira replied, striking down an enemy with fierce precision. Side by side, they broke through the circle, their movements flowing as one. Every strike, every defense carried the rhythm of trust built over years of silence and sacrifice. At last they reached Kareth himself. The warlord towered over them, his blade heavy as iron thunder. He laughed as he swung, each strike shaking the ground. But Ethan met him without fear, his sword flashing like light. The duel raged, steel against steel, sparks flying. Elira struck when she could, her staff striking Kareth's armor, but it was Ethan who held the line. His focus was absolute, his every motion fueled not by pride but by purpose. Finally, with a roar, Ethan found his opening. His blade cut across Kareth's weapon, breaking it in two. The warlord fell to his knees, defeated. The enemy army wavered, their will broken at the sight. The soldiers of Eloria cheered, their voices rising like thunder. Victory was theirs once again. When the dust settled, Elira stood before her army. Her voice carried strong and clear. "This battle is proof. Together, human and Elorian stand stronger than apart. Let none call our bond a weakness, for today it has saved us all." The soldiers bowed their heads, the weight of her words sinking in. The whispers of doubt began to fade, replaced by respect. Later, as the army rested, Elira sat beside Ethan by the fire. For the first time in many days, her heart felt lighter. She looked at him and said softly, "You would have let me cast you aside to protect me. Yet I will never do so. You are my warrior, my strength, and my husband by vow. No enemy, no counsel, and no fear will change that." Ethan's eyes met hers, and though he said little, the depth of his gaze spoke more than words. The rising war had tested them, but it had also revealed a truth unshakable. Their bond was not only a secret of the past. It was the key to the future. The battlefield lay quiet, the fires of war slowly fading as soldiers tended to the wounded and repaired broken armor. Victory belonged to Eloria and her allied human forces, yet the tension of political consequences lingered. Whispers of the forgotten vow still flowed through the ranks in the provinces. Some feared the union between human and princess, while others admired the courage and loyalty that had won the day. Princess Elira walked among her soldiers, offering words of encouragement and respect. Her heart was steady now, no longer torn by confusion or fear. She had seen the truth with her own eyes. Ethan's bravery, wisdom, and sacrifice were undeniable. He was more than a warrior. He was a partner whose loyalty had never wavered. The High Queen approached her quietly, her expression thoughtful. "You have done well, Elira," she said. "Your people will remember this day, and your choice will shape the kingdom for generations." Elira nodded. "It is not only my choice, Mother, it is ours. Ethan has stood by me not as a soldier, but as someone who belongs in my life. The council may resist, yet the bond is real. It cannot be denied." The queen studied her daughter, a faint smile crossing her lips. "Then you must speak openly, for the world must know your heart." That evening, the princess summoned the council to the palace hall. The room filled with the familiar faces of elders and generals, their expressions wary. Soldiers and advisors waited nearby, their eyes full of anticipation. Elira entered, her silver hair catching the torchlight, her armor polished and clean, her posture commanding. Ethan followed her, quiet and steady, his sword sheathed but always within reach. The room fell silent as the princess raised her voice clear and unwavering. "Honored council," she began, "the truth of the past cannot be hidden any longer. The human warrior who stands beside me is not only my protector, he is my husband by vow, sworn to me years ago to preserve peace between our peoples. His loyalty, courage, and love have guided us through countless battles. Today I declare that Ethan is my chosen partner, and he will remain by my side." The chamber erupted into whispers. Some elders gasped, shocked by her bold declaration. Others murmured approval, impressed by her courage. Some soldiers nodded quietly, their respect evident. One elder, the most vocal against the union, stood. "Princess, are you certain? The people may not accept this. They may question the purity of the royal line, and divisions could rise across the provinces." Alira's voice was firm. "I am certain. Strength is not measured by blood alone, but by loyalty, courage, and love. Ethan has proven himself in every way. If the council refuses to accept this, then we will change their minds not with fear, but with honor and truth." Silence fell. The elder lowered his head, seeing that her decision was final and unwavering. Even those who opposed her could not deny the truth of what had been witnessed on the battlefield. After the meeting, the princess and Ethan walked together through the palace gardens. The air was cool and fragrant with flowers, the moon casting silver light on the stone paths. "You spoke boldly," Ethan said quietly, a faint smile on his lips. "The council will remember this for years." Alira glanced at him. "They will remember more than my words. They will remember what we have done together. The battles, the victories, and the trust we have built. That is stronger than fear or doubt." Ethan nodded. "And yet, Princess, there will always be those who challenge what they cannot understand. Are you ready for that?" "I am," she said firmly, "because I know the truth. And the truth is stronger than any whisper of doubt. You and I, Ethan, we face the world together now. No one can change that." The following weeks brought challenges, but also remarkable change. Soldiers spoke openly of the strength that came from unity between human and Aelorian. Villages that had once doubted the alliance now welcomed humans and aliens training together. The story of their victories spread, inspiring hope and courage across the kingdom. Even the council began to adjust. Some elders spoke privately to Alira, acknowledging her wisdom and bravery. Others, though hesitant, began to respect Ethan's presence, recognizing the loyalty and protection he had shown for the princess and the people alike. One afternoon, the princess and Ethan stood atop the highest tower of the palace, overlooking the valley below. Fields of green stretched to the horizon, rivers gleaming in the sunlight. Soldiers marched in formation, their banners waving proudly. "It is beautiful," Ethan said softly. "Yes," Alira replied, "and it is ours to protect. Together we have proven that trust, loyalty, and courage can overcome fear and doubt." Ethan looked at her, the warmth in his eyes reflecting the pride he felt. "You have made the right choice, Princess, not only for yourself but for all of Aeloria. And you," she said, her voice gentle, "have made me see the true meaning of strength, not in victory alone, but in devotion, trust, and sacrifice. That is why you are not only my warrior, but my husband in every way that matters." Ethan reached for her hand, and she took it without hesitation. In that simple gesture, years of secrecy, duty, and hidden truths were finally acknowledged. They were partners bound not only by a vow but by shared battles, understanding, and trust. The days that followed were filled with rebuilding and celebration. The human and Aelorian soldiers trained side by side, teaching each other new strategies and sharing stories. Markets reopened, villages grew prosperous, and peace took root more firmly than it had in decades. Alira and Ethan often walked among the people, their presence a symbol of unity and hope. Children ran to them asking questions about the battles they had seen, and both laughed as they answered. Farmers and traders nodded respectfully, inspired by the courage and loyalty they witnessed. At night, when the palace grew quiet, Alira and Ethan would sit beneath the stars. They spoke of past battles, of memories long hidden, and of dreams for the future. Each moment strengthened their bond, proving that the human spirit and the Aelorian heart could rise together, stronger than any enemy or doubt. Finally, the princess addressed the people of Aeloria in the grand hall. The banners of both humans and aliens hung side by side, a symbol of unity. Alira's voice rang clear, confident, and filled with authority. "People of Aeloria," she said, "we have faced threats, doubts, and shadows from the past. Yet we have proven that courage, loyalty, and trust can guide us through the darkest times. Ethan, the human warrior who stands with me, is not only my protector but my partner, my husband, and a symbol of unity between our peoples. Together we will defend our homes, our families, and our future." The hall erupted in cheers. Some cried, some laughed, and all felt a renewed sense of hope. Even the council, once hesitant, bowed in respect. The declaration was not just about love, but about strength, unity, and the promise of a brighter future. Later, in the quiet of the palace gardens, Aelira looked at Ethan. We have faced war, secrets, and doubt, yet here we are stronger than ever. Ethan smiled, taking her hand in his, because together nothing can break us. Not enemies, not whispers, not fear. Only together, Princess, can we protect what matters most. And so, beneath the twin moons of Aeloria, Princess Aelira and Ethan, her human husband and warrior, stood side by side. They had proven that the heart, loyalty, and courage of humans could match even the most ancient powers of Aeloria. They were partners, leaders, and symbols of hope. Their story would be remembered for generations, a testament to unity, trust, and the unbreakable bond of two souls who chose to face the world together. The future was bright. The alliance was stronger, and above all, humanity had shown once again that its greatest strength lay not only in battle, but in the heart.